You stared long and hard at Toka while she sat calmly by the windowsill. For a cat, you were surprised she hadn't fidgeted for some time, staring back while you tried to peer into her blue eyes, concentrating with all of your might.
"You're hungry, right? That's what you said?"
You asked with a chirp, almost elated to come to that conclusion. Toka only turned to lick herself nonchalantly. You sighed heavily, feeling the tension in your temples. For some time you still remembered the sound of Toka's voice in your head, trying to reclaim this talent to speak with animals. However, it had only resulted in mild headaches, and if not for the fact that you were still at home, your attempts could almost be seen as paranoia at this point. Licking your wounds while you were still ahead, figuratively speaking. You went about the day, doing mundane tasks before you decided to sit by the sill with your phone, catching up on any gossip in town through the local hero network. Too much excitement had caught everyone unaware ever since the building collapse in Nisaha City, including the arrest of a mole in the commission that has put the agency back under question. After the years that had transpired, it was a shock that they had not entirely learned their lessons. Midoriya now had more on his plate, whereas a number of randomized assaults in Musatafu were being chased up by Bakugo, Kirishima, and Todoroki. There were too many things going around, and not enough to catch the fires before they grew. No pun intended. Still, on your phone you decided to send a text, your thumb hovering over the keypad before you decided to type.
"Hope you're okay."
Shinsou was at his agency, of course, but these random attacks on the city demanded his attention, having heard through the network of who was involved. The suspects responsible for Overhaul's escape had been spotted by witnesses, and this time out in daylight.
Thanks. So far so good. Was wondering if you can meet me at Chat Noir. Maybe around 3?
Strange. Neither of you had ever visited the cafe for years.
"Okay. Short day?"
That and it's a safe spot. Still remember you dragging me there.
You smiled happily at the memory, recalling the hours spent organizing for his birthday the night prior, even though it was a short event. The surprise was the fact that Shinsou suggested the place to meet. Things had escalated to a degree that secrecy became commonplace, and primarily with your work at the commission on hold, you were left with unanswered questions. Toka mewed while she jumped into your lap, curling herself to lay comfortably on your legs. Her purrs were warm and inviting while your fingers lightly pat her neck, playing against her collar. It was only a few more hours until the time Shinsou suggested, giving you half that time to prepare yourself for travel.
"I'll see you when I do."
A bus ride through Musatafu ensured you reached the general area of where Chat Noir was located, making the rest of your way there by foot. You kept tabs on the notifications on your phone, reading on the news of assaults and acts of violence around the city. Luckily, none had been listed close to where you were, considering Shinsou's choice to meet at the Cat Cafe overall due to the climate. The streets weren't filled with civilians, but many locals still roamed around, giving you a sense of security. Safety in numbers, at least you hoped. Soon the familiar sign was visible to see from a block away. You spotted some slight wear and tear in its large letters, but the small cafe still had some customers and, of course, its feline residents. You stared through the window, watching all of the cats roam around the cafe floor, comfortable in their surroundings. You saw fairly new ones in the shop, but a few familiar faces were recognized as well. It only brought a smile to your face, not realizing a familiar figure standing beside you.
Having fun?
Asked Shinsou with a smile.
Just watching.
You simply replied.
For a minute I thought you were reading their minds.
A pout crossed your lips, staring up at Shinsou's almost jovial smile. Your exercises at home did not go unnoticed by him, teasing you about your attempts to reclaim a talent you never knew you had. You haven't seen him this happy for a slight hint of your misery, or at least this happy in general.
Everything okay?
You asked, trying to divert the conversation elsewhere.
Let's head inside,
Suggested Shinsou, while he opened the door with the ring of its bell above its frame. He made way for you to enter first, soon following after with a gentle tug of the door. It looked as if you had stepped back in time, finding that the cafe had not changed much at all over the years since your surprise birthday gift. The resident felines prowled around, minding their business, like usual, while both Shinsou and yourself found a table to sit at, ordering your usual coffees in lonesome company.
The media's been going wild lately.
You commented, eyeing Shinsou's firm gaze.
You're telling me.
He responded in a low whisper.
My agency's been spearheading all of the attacks across the city. I've kept in touch with everyone involved.
Have you heard back from Midoriya?
No, or Kaminari, but I'm not directly involved with their rescue mission.
Your eyes frowned at the thought of being left in the dark. Ever since your suspect escaped, the city had been running rampant with assault after assault. They all seemed random, as if they were minor violent reactions with no purpose but to instill fear into the public. More so, you stared into Shinsou's eyes, distracted in his own thoughts. Many of the events had hit him harder than most. You needn't have to read his mind to see that.
We'll sort this out.
You reassured before your orders arrived at your table.
At least until I have the city's permission to work back in the field somehow.
I'll make sure my agency will give you privileges.
Reaffirmed Shinsou, reaching his hand out to yours.
We need you. I need you, kitten.
You felt the warmth of his palms engulf your own, comforting with a smile, with both of your coffees still warm, sitting in between. The smell of it was soothing, while you glanced at a feline visitor every once in a while, making themselves comfortable in your company. It was peaceful. That was when you realized how peaceful it was. Surrounded only by the cats that occupied the space. The staff were nowhere to be found, and whoever was in the cafe as a customer had all but disappeared.
Kitten, there's a lot going on.
Started Shinsou while his thumbs rubbed against your skin.
Well, where?
You murmured while you looked around, confused and a little suspicious. Shinsou watched your reaction to the situation at hand. Of course, he figured you would have caught on to the strange realization that the both of you were alone, sans for the cats that still stayed on the cafe floor. He smiled, realizing himself that he wouldn't have pulled something off without raising your own suspicions. And yet, he was surprised you hadn't thought to read his mind. Which made him love you all the more that you didn't.
I've seen what everyone has done to you. Bullied, belittled, even ostracized you.
He started, catching your attention.
You didn't have to tell me these things, because even though you've never told those stories, somehow I knew. Even when we started off on the wrong foot back in school.
He stood from his chair before he took a quick sip of his coffee, almost like a form of liquid courage. At least that was what he convinced himself. He knelt by your side, his tall frame evident in the way he held his stature, staring into your eyes before he pulled a small box from his pocket.
I've watched you maneuver around those obstacles. I watched you grow full of love and kindness despite all the bitterness in the world. And I've been late on the bandwagon to say this.
With a flick, he opened the small black box to reveal a ring. Petite, but firm, that looked like it was carved from black glass. Despite him kneeling, the cats surrounded him, walking all over his legs and knees, yet he only had his violet eyes on you.
Kitten, because of your love and kindness, I've changed for the better. You make me feel better and do better, and I don't want to lose you,
proposed Shinsou while he lifted the box. The temptation was there to read his thoughts as you stared back into his eyes, but it didn't feel right to do so. This wasn't a matter of minds, but of hearts. Overwhelmed by the sudden proposal in a cafe, you had shared your first birthday present with him. For him. Without another thought to spare, you joined him on the cafe floor, kneeling before him to meet his level, surprising him with your reaction before you held his hands that cradled the small box in his palms.
I don't want to lose you either,
you answered before you offered your hand to him. All you did was smile, as did he, pulling out the ring to slip it onto your hand. You both shared the moment together, kneeling before each other when Shinsou pulled you in for a gentle kiss. His lips were warm and tender, while you returned him in kind, your arms holding him in your embrace before he gently laid you onto the cold floor, his body hovering over yours. You watched his eyes glaze over your form, his smirk almost intoxicating, until a cold wet nose brushed against your cheek. A multitude of the cafe's resident felines still hovered around, now joining in on some of the fun while you chuckled at the slightest touch, human or cat. Shinsou chuckled at your happiness, watching small tears appear from the corner of your eyes through your smile. He was thankful the staff allowed to give him an hour or two alone with you for this proposal, to watch you enjoy time away from the madness that was turning Musatafu upside down. He stared at your necklace that still laid across your chest, its dusky orange hue glinting against the afternoon light that shone through the cafe windows. That was a promise, he thought, but now staring at the black ring that you wore, he felt that it was all becoming very real, swelling with joy while his tired eyes still watched your laughter. He was finally able to make plans. The next hour or two was a quiet one, filled with peaceful company between yourselves and the cats that celebrated this occasion. Afterwards, the cafe shut for the afternoon, leaving the both of you to travel back home together, but not before Shinsou thanked the staff immensely in his own way for their help. He felt relieved that the hardest part was over while he held on to you through the streets, keeping your hand hidden in his that held the ring. The last thing he wanted was a media frenzy to catch on and avoid the attention that Bakugo and Todoroki had endured themselves.